Shalom. Giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahakwarash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. News and prophecy, linking the things happening here in Babylon the Great, also throughout the four corners of the earth, as the elite are honing in, all right, on the digital Tower of Babel, which is pretty much the NWO, all right, the seed of Satan, right? As you can see here, the World Economic Forum with the lines through it, marking, a very subtle 666, which is the number our forefather John the Revelator told us that we would need to be on the lookout for, tied to a particular man or nation of people, all right, who would lead a rebellion, all right, an anti-Messiah system, undermining the Most High's plan to set up his only begotten Son as ruler on this earth along with the true biblical Israelites. The governing body will be 12,000 out of each tribe, okay? Ultimately, priest after the order of Melchizedek. A righteous government is going to be set up on the earth as the heathen are raging to implement their own version of an everlasting kingdom using technology, so-called science, which is pseudoscience, in rebellion, okay? And I have here, all right, off of the platform Jason A, it's here. We warned this was coming. So I'm going to just jump right into it, and hopefully you brothers and sisters be edified as the absolute wicked, all right? The wicked have taken rule. Life is, just pretty much getting worse and worse. And they're setting themselves up to fix all of the issues and problems that they created via this technocracy, okay? Your phone is just getting all kind of scam calls all day. Accounts are being hacked. Have the online terrorism, so to speak. All right, and that's just a few of the issues that they've created purposely so that they can present themselves as the saviors of the world. As the scriptures say, when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction shall come upon them. And they don't have the Most High in mind. They don't have righteousness in mind. They're trying to figure out, with all of the wealth and control they have, how to get more and to ultimately put you in a digital prison. Okay?
To anonymity on social media. In our countries, no one can walk the streets with a mask on their face or to anonymity on social media. In our countries, no one can walk the streets with a mask on their face.
Spanish PM Pedro Sanchez, okay, demands the end of online anonymity, calling for every social media account to be linked to EU digital ID wallet. It's not this everything we've been telling you, because you have these channels, right? You have people who now see it, right? And but this is clearly, all right, moving you towards the M0TB, which we're not going to stop talking about the M0TB. And if you're tired of hearing about the M0TB and what's happening around you, all right, then go watch The Deacon. Maybe he'll have, some some information that you're interested in hearing. There's various things you can listen to. If you got a problem with what we do, hey, you could freely, all right, click off of the video, okay? Because the scriptures tell you the testimony of Yahweh Shai is centered around prophecy, okay? The scriptures tell us to seal not the words of this prophecy, because the time is short and these things are coming faster and faster. Things that were once a rumor are now becoming a reality, right, in our everyday lives. So here it is. You have, okay, this guy demanding the end of online, all right, anonymity, all right, meaning you being able to just log in anonymously and, your accounts not tied to a digital ID to where you could be identified, to where they can know exactly who you are. People are just getting online, creating accounts. And if you're noticing now, Google is, pretty much linking all of your accounts. You log in, it's already set, try to tell you to put in your biometrics. Eventually it's going to be mandatory. Eventually passwords will be a thing of the past. Okay, and your only way to get online, your only way, all right, to pretty much live will be this digital ID system. The only way to work, okay, and eventually buy and sell via, all right, the micro C-hip, which is going to link you, okay, to this modern day Tower of Babel. But as you can see, he's presenting the issues that they have. He's saying in my country, people can't even walk around with a mask. We need to know who people are. It's too much crime. Okay.
Or drive a car without a license plate. No one can send packages without showing an ID or buy a hunting weapon without giving their name. And yet, we are allowing people to roam freely on social networks without linking their profiles to a real identity. This paving the way for misinformation, hate speech, and cyber harassment, because it is facilitating the use of bots, and it is allowing people to act without being held accountable for their actions. Such an anomaly cannot continue. In a democracy, citizens have the right to privacy, not to anonymity or impunity, because with those two, social coexistence would be impossible. That is why I believe we must push forward the principle of pseudonymity as the functioning element of social media, and force all these platforms to link every user account to an European digital identity wallet. This way, citizens could use nicknames if they want, but in the case of a crime, public authorities will be able to connect those nicknames to real people and hold them responsible. Because accountability is not an obstacle to freedom of speech. It is an essential complement to it.
Well, many have started paying for things with their phones, even watches.
One company, though, wants to take that technology to another level by implanting a chip in your hand. So the overseas company Walletmore is selling the microchip in parts of Europe. It's about the size of a grain of rice, goes under.
You see these camps, all right, there's a spirit of Satan on them, all right, to push major distractions, because ultimately a lot of them are working for the left hand, whether knowingly or unknowingly. There's just spirits on them, because right now, we're pretty much at the finish line. We're pretty much at the very end, of being able to do these videos, go out on the highways and the byways, and the scriptures tell you to seek the Lord while he may be found. There's going to be a lot of Israelites following charlatans. They're going to find themselves in the midst of all of this with no damn clue. Okay? Your leaders have, they're changing the doctrine up. They're saying things that are, absolutely crazy and just out of this world, disrespectful to men, that the Lord, Yahweh Shai, spoke well of and set up. You have camps that don't have no regard for what's coming out of their mouth, and you're following them in your ignorance. Meanwhile, look what's happening behind closed doors. All right? Or it's really right in the open now. See? And pretty soon, life as you know it is going to drastically change. You think 2020 to now was something. You wait what the devil got coming, all right, going forward, man. He's getting ready to do something. Okay? He's getting ready to do something to justify forwarding this agenda as your government, your president, this whole American, fiasco is now in the hands of the small hats. Okay? And the small hat, okay, has a very, 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 very brutal future for you Americans concerning your freedoms. Okay? You see what they're doing over here we're watching. right? Online digital ID. We need to identify. Well, it's getting ready to tighten up here. Okay, and all of these mishaps and all of this confusion that we see happening is all leading you towards that. World Jewish Congress calls for stripping Americans' First Amendment rights. World Jewish Congress now openly calling for the censorship of Americans who criticize Zionism and the revocation of their First Amendment rights. Attendees at the recent Jewish Leadership Conference openly called for censorship to suppressing dissenting voices like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. Now, if you looked at the News and Prophecy I did yesterday, which it was pretty much off the top, but the information came out, I listened to a little bit of it. We were showing you how a lot of these right-wing, MAGers are now turning on Trump. They're turning on the small hats, and there's a lot of information coming out. You got Nick Fuentes, you got Tucker Carlson, you got Marjorie Greene Taylor, you got Candace Owens, and more. They've all turned on Trump, and they're speaking against the small hats. And what I said is that they're going to use the likes of Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, and their talking points, all right, to have a bigger push towards what? Shutting down freedom of speech, making a man an offender for a word. Okay? Let's get that real quick. Okay? This is what they're doing. And then that whole online, not being anonymous online, all of that's getting ready to change. Okay? Let's see here. Offender for a word. Okay? Isaiah 29. All right, and 19. For the meek shall increase their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. So the Esau Edom is being exposed. Okay? He's being exposed. He's being brought to naught via the elect waking up, which that's leading to a change in the world. People's minds are now opening up to what, who the real problem is. The enchantments that Esau threw out there to make our people seem as the problem, yeah, it worked to a degree, but now people are like, wait a minute. These poor, yeah, that's a problem. We hate these niggas. We hate these spics, but the true issue is the small hat. Okay? That's getting ready to be a big divide here in Babylon. That make a man an offender for a word, and that lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate. And the big pushers of getting in control of freedom of speech is those small hats, because they're getting cursed out left and right. They're the ones that are at the forefront of what happened in 2020 with the Ovid. It was their companies and pharmaceutical companies, okay, that benefited from that. When Trump pushed Operation Warp Speed, who did that benefit? That benefited, all right, the leaders of Pfizer and all of these companies that pushed. And this is not medical information, but as we'll show you, it's even coming out that was a farce. Not that there wasn't some form of sickness, but how they controlled it and how they forced things into people, or it was absolutely wicked. It was a violation of human rights. So all of these things are coming out, and they want to make a man an offender for a word and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate. And one of the snares that they're laying, all right, I believe through the Spirit, is the likes of Nick Fuentes, clearly controlled opposition, a Mo, who poses as a Christian, Tucker Carlson, clearly controlled opposition, right? Candace Owens. One of the snares that they use is that they set up people to say things that are true, speaking against the small hats as well, right? And you listen to them, and they sound like they're serious. They act as if they believe in the Bible and all of this, but that's going to be one of the snares, okay, that they're going to use to just shut out free speech. So you have the leaders of the Jewish this conference openly calling for the censorship, all right, of dissenting voices like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes. You see that? Okay. Tikva's Jewish Leadership Conference brought together over 1,000 American Zionists on Sunday to fight, all right, Mamdani-style anti-Zionism being normalized on the left and the Tucker Fuentes cancer spreading on the right. Okay?
Ben Shapiro devoted an entire show to explaining why, in video clip after video clip, Tucker Carlson is, in Ben's words, and I can quote you to yourself, the most virulent super spreader of vile ideas in America.
See, so there's a large part of MAGA that have now went rogue. And they're cursing out Trump, saying basically everything he's doing is helping the small hat. You know, I'm talking about going in. Candace on going in, right, on the small hat. So now, you know, they're being looked at as a big problem. See that? We talked about that in yesterday's News and Prophecy, okay?
Thank you for being the conscience of American conservatism. Your unyielding devotion to America, the West, and the Jewish people emboldens and inspires us all. So without further ado, Dan Senor, Barry Weiss, Ben Shapiro, please join us on the stage as we defer on the
Okay. And, you know, there's the quote, you know, there's the quote, all right. Jewish conservatives are looking to J.D. Vance to draw a line against anti-Semitic right. So there's gonna be a big push from these small hats to shut up, all right, the likes of Candace Owens, you know, Tucker and so forth, which eventually that's going to be a push towards those who are preaching the scriptures on street corners. All right, just something to look out for. All right, but this system is being set up. Okay, this system is being set up. And before I finish that, let me go here to show you what I was talking about. I'm not going to play too much of it, but
How many?
look at the title. X, all right, Zer, executive, says there was no demic. It was all one big lie, okay? And when you listen to him, okay, this is him, all right? You could watch this video on your own, okay? People are saying it was an IQ test, 70% failed, okay? They saying it was a scam. They saying close to 18 million people have went back to the spirit world, but you know, behind what was put in them. All right, people are asking, when is, you know, Falsey going to jail? He ain't going to jail. This is global genocide. Okay. So yeah, you got to watch this video. It's on Redacted. Of course, they haven't been tripping on this type of information coming out. All right, but as a matter of fact, because they're restoring pages that they took down, you know, for bringing out this information, I'm just going to play a little bit of this.
How many of you believe there was no pandemic at all? Well, you'd be right, according to ex-Pfizer executive Dr. Michael Yaden. Again, these aren't my words, although I agree with him. Just to be clear, YouTube censors, these are the words of an ex-Pfizer executive who says there was no pandemic at all. Dr. Michael Yaden. Now, he says there's no pandemic, and the lie was maintained in order to inject 5.5 billion people with what he says was an intentionally dangerous substance, 17 million of whom have died so far, he said.
So this is not medical information. I'm just going to leave it there. This is their words. This is allegedly, I don't know, I'm just playing what's on the news, which you allowed on your platform. So don't go, hating on me, hating on the baller, right? But again, this devil, and their own tongues are falling on themselves. This is that prophecy coming to pass. Okay? So everywhere you look, these devils are getting caught. All right? Psalm 64:8. So shall they make their own tongue to fall upon themselves, and all that see them shall flee away. And all men shall fear and shall declare the work of God, because a lot is getting ready to come out on these devils and what they got going. Okay? Anyway, going back here, company is selling micro C-HIP payment, all right, for chip in hand.
Under the skin, it's then activated using a digital wallet app. The chip is going for about $300, and the company says at least 200 people have gotten them implanted already. I would have many questions for a doctor about that.
Yeah, how
Look at that micro did it.
It's pretty big.
It's a pretty big chip.
A paper cut hurts. You're gonna put a thing like that, in your hand.
To change banks, you gotta change it out. I don't know. I ain't interested in it. Keep it easy.
I just want to know how it affects your body.
Yeah, it can't be good. It can't be good to put some.
Well, the scriptures tell you how it affects your body. Okay, the script eventually, pursuant to the book of Revelation 16, okay, that there's going to be a grievous sore associated with that. All right, the scriptures tell you eventually how it's going to affect your body. All that radiation on the inside of you, that's not going to go well. Because that's not how the Heavenly Father intended on human beings to live. It's unnatural. But see, this is a part of this man's miracles to upgrade humans, all right, and to transcend, all right, past human physical limitations, man, to upgrade you, right, to make things easier. To make identifying you easier, to make things safer. Okay, convenience. That's how it's being sold. Right? And why the hell ain't these camps talking about it? Why ain't Deacon Hakah or Priest Hakah, whatever the hell his name is, he supposedly teaches the M0TB, but all of a sudden he's flipped on you Israelites and now he's helping the enemy. Telling you that vocab Malone could be a priest in the kingdom of heaven and judge the nations along with you and Yahushai. Not one mention of the C-HIP, no more prophecy, just a bunch of mind games and confusion. See, we told you the sellouts are going to show their reary heads. They're going to show themselves. You shall know them by their fruits. Okay? And I probably got one more video I'll do on that whole fiasco, and I'll leave it alone. But we had to tap into prophecy. This is Matthew 7:20. Wherefore by their fruits shall you know them. Okay? Verse 19. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits shall you know them. See that? And why ain't they prophesying? Why ain't they bringing this information out to you? Why ain't they preparing you? Why did General Yohana say, do you think God, here it is. Now this is a talking point in the world. General Yohana said, do you think God cares if you take a micro C-HIP? What's up with that? Do you think God cares if you take a microchip? That's your great no coward General Yohana and Captain Tazariak. Oh boy, the Lord getting ready to deal with you guys.
Some electronic device in your body and keep it there? Ooh, good luck with that.
Exactly 5 years ago, the Central Bank of Brazil, their equivalent of the Reserve Bank of Australia, introduced a new government-run payment system known as PIX. It's an app on people's phones, and the central bank forced all the banks to accept it. Brazilians can use it to transfer money instantly from their bank account to anyone else's, a friend or a shop, either using their Pix alias or, in a shop, a QR code. And the best thing? Well, it's free for people to use, and there's a single merchant fee of 0.22%. 93% of Brazilians now use Pix, and it's rapidly displacing cards. You know it's working because the US President Donald Trump is bitterly complaining about it, saying that those great American companies, Visa and MasterCard, are losing out. So he's whacking Brazil with a 50% tariff. So here's my question. How come the Reserve Bank of Australia doesn't do it? It's talking about cutting card payment costs by $1.2 billion, but actually $6.4 billion in fees are being hoovered up for not doing very much by Visa, MasterCard and the banks, as well as Apple and Google, since about half the transactions are now using cards on our phone wallets. And that's only going to increase because, as we know, cash is on the way out. What's more, the fees are hidden. We tap our card or phone without knowing about all the little added extras. So why don't we have Pix? Well, apparently it's because the payments infrastructure in Australia is entirely built around cards. And getting everyone to switch to an app where you have to scan a QR code or know the other person's alias would be hard. Also, the system is owned by the banks and Visa and MasterCard. So the government would have to effectively nationalise it, which was fine for Brazil, but in Australia we privatise businesses, not the other way around.
As ATMs and bank branches close and Australians increasingly rely on digital payments, one economist predicts the country will be cashless in the next few years. But there are fears a world without banknotes will leave people unable to pay for essential goods and become easy targets for cyber criminals.
No time for delay on the lunch rush.
Tap away when you're ready. Tap away when you're ready. Tap away when you're ready.
Cafe Pablo and Rusty's was one of the first businesses to axe cash. Now heavy hitters are on board, including KFC, Krispy Kreme and Nando's.
So they're doing away with cash. Okay. I saw one article where they're no longer printing pennies after a certain time. Okay.
Even Macquarie Bank is phasing out cash deposits and withdrawals.
We're definitely going to become a cashless society. It's better for consumers and it's better for businesses.
UNSW Professor of Economics Richard Holden says in 5 years we'll be functionally cashless unless the Reserve Bank acts even sooner.
We could say year one, we'll get rid of the $50 bill. Year two, we'll get rid of the 20 and the 10. And year three, we'll kind of mop up the small change. And that would give people time to adjust. For older Australians, it's going to be more challenging.
No, not cashless. Definitely not.
I don't even have a wallet anymore. Just use the phone, it's great.
We want to be able to do what we want with our money.
Sweden, the first nation to introduce banknotes back in the 1600s, was shaping up to be the first to get rid of them.
The demand from merchants and consumers that really decided the speed of this process.
But there was community backlash when people struggled to pay for essential goods, including the elderly and people living in areas with low internet.
We didn't see the problems in time.
Now trying to strike a balance.
New laws have come into operation, been forcing banks to have ATMs all over Sweden.
Lobby group Cash Welcome says it should serve as a cautionary tale for Australia.
Millions of Australians trust and rely on cash every day.
And it comes without the data breaches, scams and tech failures of digital payments.
Because it's not reliable. As soon as there's a flood, as soon as there's a fire, as soon as there's an internet outage, nobody can spend.
Whether you use cash or not, there's no question it's getting harder to access. In the past financial year, 11% of the nation's ATMs closed. Despite this, Aussies still withdraw $8 billion in cash every single month.
No doubt some will need convincing.
I guess the tooth fairy is going to go digital.
When Elias Brodberger goes to work, he doesn't need ID. And he doesn't need money. In fact, much of what he needs to get through the day is hidden right there, just below the surface, in his hand.
Like to touch it?
Yeah.
No?
Oh, weird. Yeah, it's like a grain of rice.
Grain of rice.
Embedded in his hand is a microchip that serves as his keys, his ID, and his wallet.
Yeah, it's all on chips. I use it like to get around the building.
Buy snacks.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's buy some snacks.
Exactly.
So I can't open it.
No.
You see it. You see it, man. We are here. Okay? This is the world. This is the technocracy that we've been warning you about through the spirit, man.
To anonymity on social media.
Let's go here.
Anthony Sutton to write about technocracy, or excuse me, about the Trilateral Commission at that time. Wow. That was my introduction to globalization. Wow.
Well, for such a time as this, here you are, man, and you are the foremost expert. I quote you a lot. I name drop with you all the time when we're talking about technocracy. But help our people, just real briefly, Patrick, if they're unfamiliar with the word technocracy, what does that mean? Just in a short, brief kind of definition.
You need to understand it as a historical term. Mm-hmm. Technocracy was invented, if you will, at Columbia University in 1932 And that, nothing, well, you know, whatever came out at Columbia except you.
Yeah, no, I have that moniker of shame for attending there. Now that we have all the pro Hamas and all this other stuff, I know, man, it is what it is.
In any case, the scientists and engineers of that day, they thought that they could do better because they thought that capitalism was going to implode, and probably was going to in their eyes, but they wanted to create a brand new economic system based on not just supply and demand, but manage resources. In other words, everything in sight, including the people. And they wanted to regulate the whole thing with universal basic income in the form of energy script at that point. That didn't pan out exactly, but we see UBI today all over the place.
Sure.
And as a resource-based economic system, you know, it's incredible that anybody would think that all of the resources of the world should be taken out of our hands and put into like a global common trust.
Wow.
To allocate to us. You know, this is not what God planned in the first place. You know,
right.
What he said, the whole world was given to us or for our support, right? For maintenance as human.
Yep. So these people don't have the Lord in mind. Okay. This is the book of Psalms 10:3. For the wicked boasted of his heart desire, and blessed the covetous, whom the Lord abhorred. The wicked, through the pride of its countenance, will not seek after God. The Most High are not at all in his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for his enemies, he puffeth at them. So how the Lord, you know, desired man to live on earth in righteousness and, you know, the resources and all of that, you know, land, you know, the clean water, you know, the God-given rights, of course, under a righteous government, right? They don't care about that. They're boasting of their heart's desire, okay? Psalms 49:6. They that trust in their wealth and boast themselves in the multitude of their riches, man. So they figure they can just do whatever the hell they want to do. Okay? Yep, Psalms 94:4. How long shall they utter and speak hard things, and all the workers of iniquity boast themselves? They want all of the resources hoarded to themselves and rationed out to you through a system where you won't have, you know, cash, okay, and ultimately, you know, the microchip. We see where it's going. Okay, and while they're doing all of this, they're trying to distract you with all of this Epstein, you know, although they are being exposed, a lot of this is ultimately a distraction, man. I have this video off of, you know, Call for an Uprising's Rumble channel. I believe he's on YouTube again now. But I was checking this out. All right. As a matter of fact, let's go here first. Okay, the magician of the highest order is creating confusion just as he was told to do.
To keep civilians down each other's throats instead of paying attention to what these globalists are really doing, which is conspiring against us. While all that's happening, I had mentioned in a previous video, they are meeting, the United Nations is meeting to discuss putting on a carbon tax on all shipments. Okay, so all shipments that come from the sea will have a carbon tax. Of course, this affects you and me, but we're not thinking in terms of financially about getting taxed. We're thinking in terms of a carbon tax. And it's very, very important because once they put a carbon tax on the shipping industry, it then will move to airlines. It'll then move all around, then to ground, you know, FedEx, UPS, everything else. And it's all about getting the carbon tax in place first. They're going to make it so that you understand what it is and that you begin following the carbon tax. They need to teach people about their enslavement tax, but the majority of people won't understand what it is. The carbon tax is, again, to make it very clear, it is to slow down your movements, to keep you more enslaved in your home, to prevent you from traveling, going on vacation, visiting grandma, and really to make you a slave inside of your home as a prisoner. And that's what they tried to do in 2020 that most people didn't talk about. They tried to get you used to it. They tried to see how many people would listen, how many people would self-quarantine, how many people would stay locked down.
It was a psychological operation, okay, to study you for what they really getting ready to do, because the next one ain't going to be no joke, okay? They could easily poison the food, the air, and say, "Oh my God, now this is a new such and such is a new one. Put the mask back on. Put a helmet on." Imagine they tell you got to wear a helmet, like they instead of like the motorcycle helmet, right? Imagine that. Well, anything's possible with this devil, man.
And then how did people come out of it? Did they start going out more? And what we've actually seen is exactly what they wanted to happen, that more people have adapted to doing things online. And that's part of this AI governance that they're bringing in. We're going to see a shift. This is part of the reason they're tearing down the education system. They want children educated via AI, not via a human. That's why you hear a lot of these stories out there constantly about female teachers now going after their students. They're pushing this stuff out there every day to plant seeds in your head so that you accept the change, which is, again, going to be AI education. Everything's going to be run through AI. And the goal is to get you to stay home and to leave your home as little as possible. And the carbon tax is going to play into them implementing what is called the carbon footprint. This will be something they could track, not just your every movement, your every purchase, your behavior. Because remember, Larry Fink told us this is all about behavioral control.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change. And this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors. And at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
So the government representatives are meeting this week to finalize the first ever global carbon tax on ocean shipping emissions, in a move that opponents could say could disproportionately hit American consumers. The initiative is driven by the International Maritime Organization, okay? So the International Maritime Organization is a tentacle, like I said previously, is the best way to describe it. It's a tentacle of the United Nations. They're supposed to be promoting safe, secure, and efficient shipping globally, focusing on maritime safety, security, environmental protection, and related legal matters. And now they're going to be the ones who bring in a carbon tax. Now, they're going to start disguising the carbon tax because of the pushback that came out of Canada. The civilians actually pushed back and revolted against this. They were not on board, okay? That's a very important thing to note, because when civilians are on board with things, they'll continue forward. If there's too much pushback, they'll pivot. And this is a pivot. You're going to start seeing this now in industries like shipping and in airlines. Airlines are going to start traveling less because of carbon emission. That's part of what they're doing with sabotaging the airlines, which I've covered for the last couple of years, specifically the last couple of months with some of their false flags, some of their PSYOP operations to get you afraid to travel, right? They've been doing it for a while now. They're going to start having airlines fly less. They're going to say it's for safety reasons, for all this other stuff. And then, of course, start bringing in how airlines are responsible for the majority of carbon emissions. Thus, you won't be able to fly because it's in the betterment of humanity if we, curb our behavior and we stay home more. And then the airlines, of course, will be good human beings too, and they won't fly as much. They don't care about making money. The people will be fully compensated. Don't worry about it. You'll be taxed more because your flights are going to cost more money to go from somewhere like New York to Florida than it used to cost. And the airlines don't care about taking a hit. This is about initiating and following through with a carbon footprint, which is all about behavioral control. And again, don't forget, people like Elon Musk, who are full-on proponents of the carbon tax, they've openly admitted to it. The problem is that the majority of people don't understand what it is, right? So when we talk about reducing your carbon footprint, it means getting all smart appliances, for the most part, inside of your home. They want you to live in a smart home. That's the end of it all, is them telling you to drive electric and live inside of a smart home. That gives them control over everything in your home. So
then they'll be able to ration it out to you and then limit what you can get based upon your digital ID. And this is the M0TB system 100%. Okay? This is the M0TB system 100%. Okay? Revelation 13 and 16, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Because if you take this mark, you're putting his name on you. Okay? You're helping him, all right, to complete his plan of the Chi-Psi stigma, merging man with machine, recreating man in his image for the betterment of society, for the betterment of the earth. All right? So we need to limit what people can have. Okay? That Malthusian theory, which the world, the WEF, is rooted in that. Is rooted in, there's not enough. Gil Bates walks around, he flies around the world preaching this madness. There's not enough resources to sustain all of the people. We need a system in place to where we can have all of the resources. We're better. These people are too stupid to know what to do with them. People overconsume. People over travel. Human beings are ruining the earth by flying all over, driving all over. We have a solution through a digital system. Okay. And, in that system, it could be hot as hell outside. and they could tell you you can't put your, air, or they'll just put your air on 80. It's 120 degrees outside, and you can't put your air under 80. All right, because it's fixed, and this is for the betterment of the earth. Okay, you can't travel. You only have so many carbon footprint points to travel and to consume. You're starting to see carbon points on purchases and on menus. Okay, this is getting you used to what they're getting ready to do, which is a digital enslavement. That's go track and trace everything you do. Okay, and of course, all right, it's gradual, but we're coming into a point where they're trying to hurry up. Okay.
Like a prisoner, when you're in your home, they'll have the ability remotely to shut off your electricity, to shut off your power, to play with your temperature gauge on your AC unit and your heater. Okay, that's what people don't realize is the point of all this smart stuff. That's why, like I said jokingly in a previous video, where they're telling you get a smart washer and dryer. Huh? And what is that going to do exactly? I mean, are you putting it? Obviously, you got to manually put it in the machine, right? Unless you're ready to bring in a Tesla robot to put it in for you. But let's be real. Right now, those aren't out there on the market. So everybody's putting it in manually. What are you doing? Shutting the door?
And Musk, he's talking about bringing these robots to follow criminals around.
If you think that I'm actually making it up. Because not only does Elon Musk, in this same speech, talk about everybody being assigned for free their own Tesla robot that will be listening to everything they say, watching where they go and what they do. Don't make you think that this is for extreme offenders like murderers or rapists, but this is just going to be for people who disagree with the government, people who by the time 2030 rolls around won't be able to criticize the state of Israel or have difference of opinions than what the current government regime tells them they're supposed to think and how they're supposed to eat and how they're supposed to treat other people and every other thing that Big Brother wants to control, because it's all about behavioral control. So here's Elon Musk talking about that. But keep in mind, he also is talking about universal high income. This is a tweet that he put out during this speech where he's talking about having Optimus replace human surgeons. Because again, remember, we've heard about AI becoming big in the medical field, and most people goes in one ear, out the other. They don't know what AI is. They think AI is nothing more than a Google search. They're talking about Optimus robots performing surgeries. And that way, we won't have to worry about the price of healthcare anymore. And he tells us that universal high income will be provided for all, and it'll eliminate poverty. And people out there are on board with this stuff because all it took was Elon Musk to jump on stage next to Donald Trump. All it took was Elon Musk to start saying that he believes in Jesus Christ. Like all these shills suddenly tell you that they have found faith in Christ, whether it's him or Russell Brand. All these guys for years and years and years have talked about being atheists, now suddenly Christian, and getting you on board with things like Tesla robots and autonomous vehicles and everything else they have planned for us. Now they're starting to work in universal basic income. But notice how they've changed the wording to universal high income. So conservatives who always complain about their tax money going towards Democrats who don't want to work, who want to sit home and play video games, well, all they needed to do was change the wording and put high income so that these sheeple suddenly think, well, wait, it'll be universal high income. So yes, let's build these robots out so they could follow around criminals or ex-criminals, and so that they could take all of our jobs away, right? Elon Musk even tweeting it out proudly because he's fully on board with universal high income, just like he's fully on board with climate laws being in place. And if you understand what the plan is with Agenda 2030 and how these things tie together for human enslavement, you'll start to see what's really being built out.
They're just working iniquity. All right. Micah 2:1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hands. Okay, so they're just working wickedness, man. Why they have you in this rat race, polluting your mind with all of this confusion, scandal after scandal. All right. As you really look at what's happening, especially if you're listening to the true prophets, all right, and paying attention to what's happening before you, all right, because the scriptures talks about how a fool's eyes are in the ends of the earth. Let's see here. Okay, let's get that real quick. Proverbs 17:24. See what it says in the NLT. Sensible people keep their eyes glued on wisdom, but a fool's eyes wander to the ends of the earth. All right, meaning you're all over the place, but you're not looking at what's happening before you. Okay, the scriptures say, a wise man's mind or heart discerneth both time and judgment. So the elect are discerning of the times, man. The true teachers are keeping your mind fixated, all right, on what's happening, man. Okay, where there is no vision, right? Hey, y'all go appreciate the prophets as these times, hone in, but it's gonna be too late for a lot of you. Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. And is more than just wearing fringes, man. Keeping the law is being in the spirit, keeping the order, because we were commanded not to bow the knee. We were commanded, all right, via the new song, right, to speak against this, not to bow to this. Revelation 14:9, and the third angel followed them. The angel is speaking through men on earth, saying, well, with a loud voice, as if any man worship the beast and his image and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hands, all right, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture. So it's a commandment, okay, to keep the law is to keep this same. Okay, to not worship the beast, his image, and take his mark. We're commanded, but this is the very system that they're setting up around us. So ultimately, we're going to need what? All right, to keep the law. We're going to what? Need to what? Be rooted in faith, man.
Go in and drop a deuce, and then from your phone, it's easier for you to open the app, look for it, find it, start.
Oh, I was watching this one, Salakia.
Around you. Here is his speech, and he talks about a time too where we won't need money. In fact, your wealth will be measured in how much energy you can provide. So I guess that does us no good because we're not allowed to actually generate free energy. They're allowed to control all those things. So if you have energy, like say Tesla, who provides a lot of energy, you'll be the king of the world on top of the mountain. While the rest of us, well, we'll just be getting whipped in the rear end by Tesla bots.
People often talk about eliminating poverty, giving everyone amazing medical care. Well, there's actually only one way to do that, and that's with Optimus Robot. With humanoid robots, you can actually give everyone amazing medical care. Optimus will ultimately be better than the best human surgeon with a level of precision that is beyond human. So I think that's a pretty wild concept to say, okay, if people always talked about eliminating poverty, but actually Optimus will actually eliminate poverty. Optimus will actually give people incredible medical care. I think we might be able to give people a more if somebody's committed crime, a more humane form of containment of future crime, which is if you say you now get a free Optimus, and it's going to follow you around and stop you from doing crime. But other than that, you get to do anything. It's just going to stop you from committing crime. That's really it. You don't have to put people in prisons and stuff. I think it's pretty wild to think of the various of all the possibilities, but I think it's clearly the.
As the scriptures say, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter. Okay? To certain people, this sounds great with all of the hell going on earth. Psalms 55:21, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. This is a sword they're drawing after you people, man.
Future. My book recommendation for maybe the best, mostly utopian sci-fi future are the Ian Banks books, the culture books. So if you're curious, what do I think the future is probably like? I think it's probably a bit like that. Asimov to some degree, but I think it's Van Heinlein. Ian Banks, if you're saying what does Elon think the future probably will be like for AI and robots, it's kind of Banksian. Now, and things do get kind of wild from an economic standpoint, because at a certain point, with AI and robotics, you can actually increase the global economy by a factor of 10 or maybe 100. There's not an obvious limit. Optimus is kind of like an infinite money glitch. And maybe there won't even be money in the future.
Maybe there won't be money in the future.
Or money might be measured in terms of wattage, like how much power can you bring to bear from an electrical standpoint?
So sure, I mean, what excuse will they make now for Elon Musk with these Tesla robots? They're going to take your job. No one's going to be able to work. These things are now going to follow around ex-criminals. So those aren't little talking points to get people to accept this. People love the idea of this because all they hear is, oh yeah, real bad criminals. Let's have them get watched and monitored by these Tesla bots until, of course, you're the real criminal. And you'll say, well, I'm never going to rob a bank. I'm never going to rob a Nordstrom's. I'm never going to rape a woman. I'm not going to do that kind of stuff. Well, they're going to redefine what a criminal is because those things will be gone by, in terms of being harsh penalties for criminals. What they care about is the thoughts in your mind. And if you think differently or you actually even dare to question what the government's doing when it tells you it's going to ration your electricity and ration the food you have and tell you to eat bugs instead of meat, well, guess what? You'll have one of these Optimus bots following you around. Now, you may have heard him mention Banksian in that speech, a Banksian society, right? So according to his artificial intelligence that he's unleashed on the world, AI Grok, let's see what it tells us Banksian is. And you tell me if this sounds like a world you want to live in. The culture is a post-scarcity, galaxy-spanning utopian civilization run by super intelligent artificial minds. Key features that Elon keeps highlighting, right? Super intelligence. Remember, that's on the horizon. They constantly use words like utopia to make people think it'll be a world without poverty, a world without hate, all things that are human nature they want to remove, and they want you to be subservient slaves, Stepford-wise. They want you to smile when they come to your door and tell you that they're going to rent your daughter or your wife or your husband for the afternoon and do as they please with them. That's what the world, in their eyes, is going to be. And people go, that's extreme, that's over the top. That's exactly what it is. That's their utopian society. A utopian society doesn't exist, and it will never exist. So, in this reality, this Banksian reality he's discussing here, tell me if it sounds familiar to you. An abundance and post-scarcity. Almost everything is free or effectively unlimited because hyper-advanced AI and technology handle all production, energy, logistics, etc. No one has to work unless they really want to. So that'll do great things for your mental health. When you get up every day and you have nothing to do, right? What will you do? Well, you turn on a video game and go into some fake reality and live in some dystopian world. What will you do every day, right? Because God forbid humans do things that God put us here to do, like farm, like produce.
Shit, super intelligent, benevolent AI is in charge. The culture is effectively governed by godlike artificial minds that are vastly smarter than humans. Maximum individual freedom. People can change bodies, genders, live for centuries, upload, download consciousness, join wild adventures, or just chill in paradise. Okay? So these people are crazy, man. Right? They're crazy.
Started, set the time, then actually just pressing start, right? They're trying to get you to get all smart appliances without you even realizing why you're getting it. Nobody knows why they're buying smart refrigerators. Anybody doing anything with that? What are you doing with the smart refrigerator? You're up in your room and you're like, I'd like to turn the temperature down inside the air conditioner. I don't want those hard-boiled eggs to get too cold. What? Makes zero sense. But it makes sense if you understand what they're actually doing. So the carbon footprint is the ultimate New World Order concept that they need to bring about. And it's a product of the United Nations, okay? So let's take a look at the United Nations, who are the ones who are responsible right now for trying to attach this to any shipment that occurs on a sea vessel. They want to be able to tell these people who are bringing the shipments through the sea that, hey, you know what? You've got a big old ship. You got to get rid of it. You got to get one that's got, solar panels on it, that's carbon friendly. And they'll say, well, how's it going to get across the ocean? Not going to have enough energy to get across the ocean without diesel. I mean, what are they going to do? Then they're going to see they're going to shut down, or they're going to say, well, we can't ship as often, right? Because they won't let us ship as often. Or, of course, it begins with taxing the consumer, which is part of it as well, killing off the middle class, devaluing the dollar. So I recently talked about the United Nations. I've talked about them many times. Obviously, everybody out there is familiar. You've heard the term United Nations. All these globalists go and meet at the United Nations. And even recently, I talked about Val Kilmer, right? People were sad about Val Kilmer's death. He had pictures of himself outside of the United Nations, right? All these celebrities go to the UN. They love to pose in front of that picture where they tie up the end of the gun, trying to say, let's get rid of guns, right? Even though the celebrities are the ones who actually promote gun violence, right? As opposed to owning a...
All right, and you can look this video up. All right, they're just creating this, the confusion you see, like with these Epstein files and all of that. All right, they're covering up because they're getting caught red-handed, and they're really is getting to a point where they're not going to have anywhere to go. As a matter of fact, one of our we get this every video. 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, and the 8th verse. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power, signs, and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness in them that perish. Okay, and we're seeing the power and signs and lying wonders via this AI, these robots, this pseudoscience, everything that he comes with. It sounds good on the surface, but it's all a way, and the most of it don't even sound good. Okay, this man is just a complete freak. He's crazy. Okay, and he got to be stopped. Okay, he has to be stopped, man. Let's just listen to a little bit of this one, and we'll get up out of here.
Rising, welcome to today's show. This is an important video because while the government is leading you down government-created rabbit holes, there's always bigger stories behind the big story that's in everybody's face. And of course, the big story that everybody continues to talk about is the story of Jeffrey Epstein and what are in these files that the government supposedly has a hold of, that they've continued to tease you about for years and years, and the people continue to want answers. And the government's finally going to give you those answers. And for whatever reason, people believe what the government's going to tell them is the truth. That's the craziest part about it. Is Jeffrey Epstein a pedophile? No doubt about it. Was Jeffrey Epstein into eugenics? No doubt about it. Is Jeffrey Epstein buddies with all people in politics, all people in Hollywood? Were they all practicing the process of eugenics and transhumanism and breeding children? This is what Satanists and covens do. And the answer to that is yes, he was. But if you believe for 1 second what the government is going to tell you in regards to Jeffrey Epstein is true, then I guess you just pick and choose what you believe according to what you want to believe, because the government will never give you actual data and actual information. So now the big story out there is that they've signed a bill that's going to give information about Jeffrey Epstein. And let me guess, there's going to be Democrats and Republicans, very prominent names that have email exchanges with Jeffrey Epstein and meeting at his Zorro Ranch or on Epstein Island. Meanwhile, what nobody's paying attention to, that's right out in the open, that nobody seems to understand, is what Donald Trump is doing in regards to AI regulation. And that's the most important thing. Why is it the most important thing? Because the New World Order is built on AI governance.
See, all of these people are actors to play their roles in helping the elite get what they want. And Trump is no different. He was a big psyop, a big mind, F-U-C-K. I mean, it was a scam. And, and a lot of people, the MAGers are waking up to it. And it's getting ready to be all out hell. All right. Once the everyday Edomite, gets in that spirit, he's going to fight back. These truthers who thought MAGA was getting ready to take down the deep state, it's all confusing, man. It's all over the place. So people are just going to say, you know what? Y'all are lying, man. The small hats control y'all. Right? Because they are the ones at the forefront of this AI regulation. The modern day Chaldeans.
It is an enslavement system run through artificial intelligence. And while they continue to divide people via the left and the right, eventually people will become sick of the left and the right when they find out that people on the supposed list are people in their party who they support. And suddenly they might say, we can't trust any of these people. Maybe we need to go with artificial intelligence and technology. And then they'll be right where all of these people wanted them to be from the get-go, which is, again, problem, reaction, solution.
Right. They're all of this mess on the left, all of this mess on the right. All right, people, a new government is going to be set in place, and that's that technocracy, all right, that he talks about. Okay, which I think I've played this before, but this is Patrick Wood. He's kind of like one of the top men bringing out this information. But we've been telling you for the last couple of years, since 2020, get used to this term technocracy.
Race. Well, they have other ideas, obviously, and they want to control all the resources, make sure that you and I don't have our unfair allocation. So in any case, fast forward, technocracy took root in the 1970s with David Rockefeller and Zbigniew Brzezinski when they founded the Trilateral Commission. Mm-hmm. And going forward from there, they passed it off to the United Nations. The
United Nations?
Renamed it, if you will, rebranded it as Agenda 21 and Sustainable Development. That's why we have this today.
Yeah.
So, fast forward from there, from Agenda 21 days and 2030 Agenda, today we have, this whole business of convergent science at this point, NBIC, cogno, information technology, and so on. This has morphed into a monster at this point because technology has been unleashed in incredible, unprecedented fashion. Yeah. And today we see AI is just basically, he wants to eat the whole world right now. It's apparent, you know, and this is the pinnacle of technocratic success at this point. AI has made their day.
Yeah. So
here we are.
Yeah, here we are. And I have a lot to ask you about all the implications of this and what we see setting up around us in this regards. But before I go into that, I want you to speak to the mindset of this, because so those individuals that are engineering technocracy, and it turned into Agenda 21 and whatnot, and the Rockefellers and all the people that you mentioned with the Trilateral Commission, what is their frame of reference? What I mean by that is, what is motivating them to create something like this? Because you talk about
Satan, prophecy is what's motivating them.
A resource-based economy where we basically don't own anything. They would control all that. And that goes diametrically opposed to what Scripture says about even just the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not steal, which implies the right to private property of individuals.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like in their system, where are they getting this inspiration from to do something like this?
Well, you can certainly trace it back to the devil himself.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, get it right out. But
right.
The people, I'm not saying that the people at Columbia University were worshiping the devil.
Right.
Nevertheless, we see the seeds planted there to turn everything upside down, vis-a-vis creation.
Yeah.
And
yep, and that's scriptural. Upside down, turning of things upside down. Okay. Because the Lord created this earth for a purpose. See, but we had to see it, ran, by complete monsters, man. Isaiah 29:16. Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not? Or shall the thing that framed it, all right, say of him that framed it, he hath no understanding? And this is the rulers of this world, man. Okay? Just proud. They're going to tell you what they're going to do with the earth. All right? Isaiah 45. Okay? And 9. Let's get it in the NLT. What sorrow awaits those who argue with their creator? Does the pot argue with its maker? Does the clay dispute with the one who shapes it, saying, stop, you're doing it wrong? Does the pot exclaim, how clumsy can you be? Here it is. Esau's a mere creation, but he's boasting against the creator. All right, verse 12, I have made the earth and created man upon it. I, even my hands, have stretched out the heavens, and all their hosts have I commanded. Okay, verse 18. All right, let's get it in the NLT. For Yahweh is power. He created the heavens and the earth and put everything in place. He made the world to be lived in, not to be a place of empty chaos. And this is what they're making the world, empty chaos, man. Okay, this is chaos. This is madness.
They had this crazy thought that they could somehow, with technology, they could hijack evolution. They didn't believe in God, but nevertheless, they thought, well, evolution has been unkind to us, and so we need to take the reins now that we have the tools to do something about it. And so now we're going to take over all creative issues going forward, including the DNA makeup of man and matter as well, with nanotechnology and biotechnology and information technology and so on. Well, this is just spits in the eye of God. Nevertheless, they weren't religious back then. I have to say that not overtly. Okay, yeah. But we can see the shades of religion all along.
Because the science, this whole science thing was hijacked by the Satanists. There was a point where scientists relied on the Bible. Well, those days are long gone. Okay.
When they talk about these things. And honestly, if you go back to kind of the father of technocracy in the first place, it was a French philosopher by the name of Henri de Saint-Simon. You can look him up.
Okay.
But about the early 1800s, he proposed a religion that was based on science. And he said, well, forget God. Okay. What we need to do, we need to elevate science to a position of godhood and create a priesthood of engineers and scientists. That's exactly what he said. It's crazy.
Wow.
He didn't understand where it was all going at that point. But the technological revolution was already underway at that point. There was signs of it. And he got wind of that. So he seeded a lot of the stuff.
Then you get to the British Empire, you get the Industrial Revolutions. Around that time, before that, a little bit, the Age of Enlightenment. So this has been a plan for some time. Now they just have the necessary resources and power and technology on their side to go ahead and try to complete it.
That we see today. For instance, his main disciple of that, you'll probably appreciate this. His main disciple was Auguste Comte, the father of social sciences.
Wow.
In the world, right? So, wow. So in any case, I think this is going to turn religious on us really quickly, because AI at this point is gaining so much information in it.
And that's what this is, when you read Revelation, the 13th chapter, okay, this is a religion. This chip you're going to have is centered around their new religion. Okay? That's going to be the oath to enter you into the new world after they collapse this one. So you can watch this video. You see the title of it. Okay? Let me finish this and we'll get up out of here.
Which is the bringing in of AI governance. So again, I am not trying to discredit the fact that Jeffrey Epstein's a pedophile. What I'm saying is that what they're going to tell you is stuff that they want to tell you. They want to distract you, and they want you to be all fired up about the names that you hear, because there's going to be names of people that you cannot stand, and they expect Republicans to ignore the names of the Republicans on the list and point fingers at the Democrats on the list, and vice versa. And this will help bring in the destruction of the infrastructure, which is what this is all about. Donald Trump, over the last 48 hours and since day one in being in Congress, has been bringing in AI governance, which is what the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, and all of these New World Order organizations, these globalist organizations, have wanted from the get-go. This is what Trump is tweeting out. And if you listen to the stuff in between the lines, you can see how he's playing into stuff with woke AI, and we better get a grip on AI before the Democrats get their hand on AI and train the AI to be woke. He's clearing the barriers for AI infrastructure. These are his two quotes. Let me read it to you. Investment in AI is helping to make the U.S. economy the hottest in the world, but over-regulation by the states is threatening to undermine this growth engine. Some states are even trying to embed DEI ideology into AI models, producing woke AI. Remember Black George Washington? We must have one federal standard instead of a patchwork of 50 state regulatory regimes. We could do this in a way.
But see, AI was exposing their asses. Not that George Washington was black, but AI was on their ass. Okay, so the Amalekites, they bought Chat GPT, and they're trying to get control of everything so they can maneuver it for their favor, man. Okay, they're through.
That protects children and prevents censorship. He tweeted about this multiple times. How the United States of America needs federal regulation, not state-run. Why? Because what we're seeing is finally a pushback against these data centers that Trump is funding with people like Larry Ellison of Oracle and Sam Altman and Bill Gates and all of these demonic people in Silicon Valley who are doing the bidding of DARPA. They are building out these data centers. If you don't understand what the data centers are, I've broken it down many times. These data centers are to save, record, and have on record every single thing that is ever done on the computer and every single thing that is ever recorded with a camera. Whether it's a camera that you hold in your hand and you're filming something at the beach, it's going into the data center. Or if it's a camera inside of Walmart that's filming the same location, the same spot without moving for 24 hours, it's going into the data center. It is the surveillance state. That's what these data centers are being built out for. And that's why on day one, Trump passed a bill for billions of dollars, $500 billion to be exact, to go into building out these data centers. And right now what's happening is that people on the left and the right are actually pushing back against both digital IDs and these data centers. So what Trump wants to do is take away the power at the state level, because what's happening is these data centers are rolling into states, specific states, all states. Okay, so let's use one for example. It's rolling into Alabama. And what's happening in Alabama? Well, in Alabama, people are pushing back because their electricity bills are going up, and they're hearing about how much water is going to be used for these data centers. And they're saying to themselves, well, you know what? We have droughts sometimes. There's droughts here. We don't need to be giving 500,000 gallons a day to these AI data centers when we don't know what they're actually doing. So the pushback is causing Donald Trump and all of his buddies in big tech to come out and say, let's get this off of the state level. We don't need state legislature where it's left or right to have disagreements with data centers, because the entire New World Order has to run on these data centers. So this can't be a left-right issue. Everything else can be. Everything from, can gays get married? Should people be allowed to murder their babies and have abortions? Those are issues they want on a state level because they want to divide you into specific red and blue states. But the whole infrastructure is going to be run on AI. Does that make sense? So all the times that I've talked about how there's going to be red states and blue states, and they're going to appeal to you, right? Some states won't mandate vaccines, especially when they do more fake outbreaks. And nobody will want to go through that again. They'll say, look, come down to Florida. You don't have to get vaccinated. In fact, you don't have to vaccinate your kids down here. And then in states like New York will say, you have to vaccinate your kids the day they're born, or the state will take custody of your children. People say, I'm getting out of New York. And suddenly they're hurting people based on their ideologies. And we have blue and red states. Come to this state if you want an abortion. If you go to this state, you're not allowed to get an abortion. People will say, well, there's no women's rights there, even though the right to murder a baby is not a woman's right. And so, it's an insane notion. But nonetheless, people are in such a psychosis, they think that. So they'll leave the red states and go to the blue state because they'll feel like they have more freedoms in those states. But That's all being done by design by your government. The infrastructure itself is going to be run on artificial intelligence. So they cannot have this be a state debate. They cannot have states that are red or blue pushing back against the data centers because it's the infrastructure. So they need all the states to have this in place, and no states can push back against it. All these states have to have these data centers. You can't go and meet and complain to the city council. You can't go and meet with your state governors and your state mayor, whoever it is. You can't go and protest. You're not allowed to do any of it because the federal government is saying, look, this is the new infrastructure. It's run through AI. You can complain all you want, but you can't go to, you can't go vote on it if you want it in your town or not. You can't go vote on it if you want it in your state or not. It's coming regardless. And what we're seeing, again, is one of the common themes, which there aren't many between the left and right, is that there's pushback on this. Whether it's people who are sick of the electricity bills that they're starting to see go up, whether it's people who are environmentalists who are concerned about water and about how much electricity is going to be used and how we're going to be the ones who ration electricity, because both the left and right are starting to see, hey, these things need a lot of electricity. So one side saying it's bad for the environment, the other side saying the conservatives, hey, what's bad about this is that they might make us ration electricity and bring in carbon laws, right? So it's a common, rare occurrence that we're seeing right now, where both sides of the aisle are actually pushing back against big tech and AI infrastructure. So yeah, there's a division. They're trying to hide it with but really, there's a big division amongst Esau, Edom, man. Okay, this is the book of Job 20:18. That which he labored for shall restore, and he shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be, and he shall not rejoice therein. Because he have oppressed and forsaken the poor, because he have violently taken away a house which he builded not, surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. All right, that's where they at. And he shall not save of that which he desired. There shall none of his meat be left. Therefore shall no man look for his goods. In the fullness of his sufficiency he shall be in straits, and every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. And that we always show you that this word wicked is the worker, the laborer, Imal, all right, the working class. People are rebelling. When he is about to fill his belly, God shall cast the fear of his wrath upon him, and he shall rain it upon him while he is eating. Okay. So Donald Trump is coming out and saying we need now to take away any restrictions. I covered this in the past. Donald Trump has already tried to put things in place that prevent any pushback for AI governance. In Donald Trump's one big, beautiful bill, which was approved on May 22nd, 2025, they had imposed a 10-year federal moratorium on states enforcing any laws or regulations which limit, restrict, or otherwise regulate AI model systems or automated decision-making tools in interstate commerce. But what is not in that bill is the state's ability to block these data center build-outs. So what we're starting to see are states getting pushback from citizens who do not want these data centers built in their communities. They don't want these giant factories built. They're hearing all this stuff about electricity. They're hearing all this stuff about water and how much water locally is going to be used to cool down these data centers. So Donald Trump, again, is calling on Congress now to do something about it. And he's urging Congress to pass a bill which would make it impossible for states to block these data centers from being built out. And the tweets that Trump is putting out, it just plays into how dumbed down our society is, because all he has to do is put stuff like DEI ideology or woke AI or stuff about immigration, and it gets...
Yeah, and then the MAGers will fall for it. Well, that's starting to wear off.
His entire fan base, who are under full-on mind control, to support whatever he says, because they have heard for 4 years with Biden all this ridiculous crap about DEI and how they're hiring people based on their skin color, not on their ability to do these jobs or to fulfill these roles in office, or in, whether it's a pilot on a plane they're hiring because they're black, not because they're a good pilot. And it drove everybody insane. So Trump's playing off of that to tell people, look, we're going to have states that are going to pass, Democrat AI. And we're going to have states that are, if you're a conservative and you're living in New York, guess what? They're going to pass these bills, and then they're going to be teaching AI to distribute all of this DEI propaganda to your kids in school, on the computers, everywhere. And it makes people panic. Like, we got to stop that. We don't want to stay low. We want it on a federal level.
So, you can watch the rest of the video. This is the two horns like a lamb in action. Meanwhile, everything's just in a complete state of chaos. Everything's, here in Babylon, all around the world is going left, backwards, downhill. Okay. Everything, mom and pops stores face threat for survival, and you just wait till they finish with you people, man. Okay. Through. Nearly half of the U.S. states are sliding into recession. AI-powered stuffed teddy bear pulled off the market after disturbing interaction with children. People are now having AI children with their AI partners. This is just a big lump of madness, man. Okay, Trump withdraws his support and endorsement of Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's calling out the mark of the beast. She's calling this system the M0TB. So there's a divide. You know, it's getting ready to get crazy, and you know, to hide it, you know, look for more false flags. Scientists have created AI that can basically read your mind. They already got it, man. Okay. It's just, man, these titles are crazy, man. Major red flags that were seen in 2008 are emerging again. Okay. Yeah, we'll get into this in another one, but you know, hey, we're here. I just wanted to go through, you know, that little information. Hopefully I was edified. All right. Hey, we here, man. Shalom.